About this one then?
Also LiDAR, really flexible. We can fly this. I can pull it off the drone, walk with it.
You look even closer, watch this. As we slowly start to peel away the LiDAR. What is that? What the is that?
Mireya Mayer, a well-known adventurer and wildlife researcher, has uncovered yet another revolutionary finding. With her most recent expedition, she supposedly captured the clearest photographs of Bigfoot yet recorded, reigniting the age-old debate over the existence of this elusive creature.
That should elicit a response back because I'm an intruder in its territory. And the territorial species will want to let you know that you're on their turf. So it could attack, which could be super dangerous.
Join us as we explore her astonishing trip and the consequences of this remarkable visual evidence. Recently, Mireya was drawn to an intriguing sight while observing the area near a river dot. She moved slowly away from the location before returning, observing the figure just at the water's edge and noticing the heat signature increasing. There was something reflecting on the water. Reaching for her radio, she alerted her squad to the massive red signature across the river, describing it as a gigantic heat signature hidden behind a tree. She couldn't shake the sensation that this was the strangest thing she'd ever seen, and her curiosity grew as she planned to dig further. Ronnie knew the situation was growing stranger by the minute and resolved to take action. He told Mireya to keep the target in mind while he prepared to make a call in 30 seconds, so she had it in her sights. He gave out a roaring call to attract attention. Mireya then screamed, "The figure is moving!" She realized the tree wouldn't sway like that. It must be an animal. She assessed the scene, noticing that the target was no longer concealed behind the tree and was moving rapidly. Ronnie asked her whether it appeared to be on all fours or standing erect. Mireya explained that it appeared to be standing vertically. She then spotted small white dots above the heat signature that were moving around everywhere. It struck him as peculiar, prompting him to recollect accounts of individuals encountering a Bigfoot monster with little orbs waving around its head. Mireya abruptly paused, her attention drawn to something weird in the distance, prompting her to exclaim in surprise. The situation became uncomfortable, and Ronnie felt a sudden cold.
I heard it clearly, whatever that was.
Yeah, tree knocks always happen when Bigfoot is around. It's believed that Bigfoots communicate by hitting branches against the trees, and every time I've heard one, weird stuff comes with it.
Realizing the unsettling surroundings around them, Mireya focused closely, examining the environment for any shapes, animal indications, or eye shine, but found nothing. She assumed the thing had relocated to the opposite side of the area. Mireya flicked on her torch, expecting to see what was behind the enormous heat signature. Despite not being able to see much clearly with her torch, the heat signature was enormous, evident even through thick bushes. Ronnie inquired about its size. Mireya noticed that it was shrinking and becoming smaller, while the lower section of the figure was fading and becoming more transparent. She stared intently as it faded away. She gasped in surprise at the quick disappearance, realizing something mind-blowing had happened. It is shocking that, every year, hundreds of Bigfoot sightings are recorded around the country, with some people devoting their entire life to chasing down this elusive creature. While no convincing proof of Bigfoot's existence has been discovered, new evidence does emerge on occasion, and you can bet that when it does, it catches everyone's attention. Imagine seeing Bigfoot looking through your window in the dead of night. That's exactly what one man claims occurred to him. Overwhelmed by the stresses of daily life, the man sought shelter in a lonely area of Washington, expecting to find calm in a small, remote cottage distant from any town. He hoped to unwind and recharge amidst the ancient forest's deep silence. But on his second night, the peace was abruptly broken. Late that evening, while he warmed himself by the fireplace, something grabbed his eye from the corner of the little cabin windows. Initially, he dismissed it as his imagination, but as he came to close the curtains, he froze. Outside, a face stared back at him. Not human, but enormous and covered in thick hair. The deep-set eyes appeared to shine dimly in the night, and he realized he wasn't alone. Filled with terror and amazement, he was struck by how much it resembled the legendary creature he had always dismissed as a myth.
So Bryce, last time we were here, there were actually a lot of animals that were coming through the camp. So what I'd like to do tonight is place these trail cams around the perimeter.
In disbelief, he swiftly reached for his phone and took several images. The creature, which appeared to be intrigued, remained for a moment before disappearing into the forest darkness. However, the encounter had left him frightened. He couldn't sleep the rest of the night and kept replaying the horrific scene in his thoughts. When the first light of dawn broke, he carefully checked his phone's images. While most were indistinct due to his shaky hands, a couple showed a definite outline of a big, strange creature. He felt he had something absolutely unique in his possession and sought to share his experience with others. He chose to stay anonymous in order to avoid public scrutiny and skepticism. So he posted the photographs in several Facebook groups dedicated to Bigfoot sightings under a false name. Within hours, the images became a phenomenon in the town, prompting an outpouring of comments and anecdotes from others who had similar spooky encounters in the woods. Many believed that this was the clearest evidence they had ever seen of Bigfoot's existence, fueling even more intrigue about the creature. Critics cited various limitations of the photographs, including the lack of accompanying video, unclear images, and the lack of other witnesses to back up the narrative. However, a dedicated group of enthusiasts and experts supported the photograph's credibility. They highlighted the photograph's distinguishing aspects, such as the creature's position and the place where they were shot, adding that these facts were consistent with prior, more likely sightings. Additionally, researchers discovered that myths of a huge, hairy, human-like creature existed in Washington state even before European settlers arrived. For ages, indigenous tribes in the Pacific Northwest, including the Salish, Yakima, and Lummi, have passed down tales of a creature living in the deep, forested mountains. These animals were frequently regarded as powerful, yet strange protectors of the forest.
They have something called the skunk ape, and there's been a lot of sightings over many years of what they describe as a Bigfoot type of creature.
Loved and feared by the locals. The first known encounters occurred in the 1800s, when settlers moved to Washington. One of the first accounts is from 1884, near the Cascade Mountains, when settlers reported to have seen a gigantic ape-like figure. Sightings continued until the 1900s, particularly in distant places like the Olympic Peninsula, Mount St. Helens, and the Cascade Range. Witnesses typically described the monster as towering 6 to 10 feet tall, with dark fur, massive feet, and a unique musky odor. These sightings were frequently made at a distance. Bigfoot is commonly thought to engage in nocturnal behavior, maybe to hunt or avoid detection. One notable encounter occurred in 1969 near the village of Cavell. A crew of loggers described a sequence of weird happenings, including seeing a big, hairy creature and uncovering massive tracks near their camp. Then, just a few years later, in 1971, another significant sighting occurred on Mount St. Helens. Campers described witnessing a towering, 7-foot-tall, dark-haired monster. They watched in awe as it approached their tent, examined the surroundings, and then returned to the dark jungle. This sighting soon attracted notice, with local news agencies extensively covering the tale. In 2000, a driver on Highway 20 near Winthrop reported to have seen a tall, black person standing beside the road. The figure, described as standing about 8 feet tall with broad shoulders and extended arms, piqued people's interest. Fans of the Bigfoot legend came to the region, where they found enormous footprints. Washington is not the only state with a history of unusual encounters. In the early 1900s, New York State experienced numerous strange reports of human-like beings. One eyewitness recalled a face-to-face contact with the same entity that others in the neighborhood had reported seeing. These creatures were sometimes depicted as gigantic, wild-looking individuals or monsters. In the spring of 1899, the small town of Johnsonburg in Wyoming County was disturbed by stories of a gorilla-like creature roaming the region.
Some meat and run away with it. Wouldn't that make sense, then, that the Sasquatches would utilize the same strategies as human ancestors did?
Initially, many dismissed the stories as simply tall tales, but repeated sightings convinced both locals and local authorities to take the problem seriously. Witnesses described the creature as a towering monster, approximately a foot taller than the ordinary human and coated in dense black fur. Its long, disproportionate arms and dark, sunken eyes, combined with terrifying roars that echoed across the woods, terrified the citizens of Johnsonburg. Some suspected that it had escaped from a local circus or zoo, but no such escapes were ever reported. As the beast entered the village, panic increased. It invaded chicken coops and sheep pens, leaving a path of ruin in its wake. In response, the people organized search groups to find it, but the creature always managed to escape just in time. In one especially terrifying encounter, a group of women going through the woods came face to face with the beast. They stood frozen in dread as it ascended a tree and vanished from sight. Some claimed that the creature was an escaped gorilla, while others suggested it was a previously undiscovered species known as the Johnsonburg gorilla. This legend survived in local areas, but no concrete proof arose to back it up. The intrigue did not stop there. In 1906, during a particularly hot summer in the Bronx, New York, stories of a Sasquatch-like monster began to circulate widely. The news spread rapidly, arousing alarm among people who were captivated by the era's preoccupation with strange animals and the myths that went with them. Trusted community members reported seeing a big, hairy figure with eyes that burned like flaming coals in the night, causing fear to spread throughout the neighborhood. These troubling tales reached city leaders and local police, instilling anxiety in Bronx residents. Around the same time, the nearby town of Wakefield reported similar bizarre encounters, with residents muttering about a tall, thin creature with thick hair. The growing fear of the creature caused many Wakefield residents unwilling to step outside after dark.
Bigfoot is, by definition, big. Some say they grow to be 800 pounds. Could they really climb a tree and hang up there without breaking those branches?
Resulting in a wave of terror that disturbed daily life in the village. Despite days of intense hunting, the creature escaped all attempts to capture it. As the hunt progressed, concern in the town grew. Schools and shops began closing early. Residents secured their doors tightly, and few went to step outdoors at night for fear of seeing the wild man. However, as swiftly as the alarm had spread, it subsided when no evidence of the creature's existence was discovered. The hunt was eventually called off, and life in Wakefield returned to normal. Nonetheless, the story of the wild creature endured, serving as a chilling reminder of how the border between reality and legend may blur during difficult times. Following this episode, Bigfoot became a cultural phenomenon, appearing on billboards and capturing people's imaginations all over the country. In one memorable report in 1921 in Tannersville in the Catskill Mountains, a group of loggers noticed a big, hairy creature watching them from a ridge. Before they could react, it fled into the trees, leaving them both surprised and perplexed. These experienced outdoorsmen were certain that what they saw was not a bear or any other recognizable animal. Furthermore, reports of strange creatures began to surface from various sections of New York, particularly in the Adirondack Mountains and other rural areas. In 1908, a farmer in the Hudson Valley reported seeing a hairy, human-like figure near his barn late at night. He described the monster as huge and furry, retreating into the trees when he approached. The next morning, he noticed enormous human-like footprints imprinted in the mud, which added credibility to his narrative. Newspapers swiftly caught up on the enthusiasm, writing sensational articles about New York's so-called hairy wild men. This coverage drew a multitude of thrill-seekers and curious adventurers to the locations where sightings were claimed.
The idea of the mid-tarsal break was actually developed by our very own Bigfoot expert, Jeff Meldrum. Meldrum's hypothesis has been, no pun intended.
Among those interested in these incidents were some of the first cryptozoologists, scientists who study hidden or unknown animals, as well as naturalists who proposed numerous interpretations. Some claimed that these creatures were wild humans, perhaps descendants of hermits or people who wanted to live alone in the forest. Others speculated that they could be a new sort of ape, or possibly the remains of older human species, such as Neanderthals, hidden in New York's vast woodlands. Furthermore, there was rising speculation that these sightings were linked to local mythology. Indigenous cultures like the Iroquois and other Native American groups from the region had long told stories of enormous